Man, bro, did a song with Lul Tim. Man, y'all, shut y'all. They ain't gonna do shit ass niggas up, man.
Following Chief Keef's association with NBA YoungBoy, Lul Tim, Timothy Leaks, and King Von's shooter, called out all of the Oblock members. His killer is now tormenting the block on television after they lost their brother. What did Oblock respond? With that made the internet go silent? Was Tim just dooming himself? Let's get started. The block lost it when Sosa connected with the opposition. Okay, check it out. The rap game was simply going about its business on February 13th, 2026, right? Everyone is scrolling through their feeds and arguing over who is in the top 5, alive or dead. Then suddenly, without warning, bang! A song called Rooms, produced by Mike Will Made It, had two names that had no business sharing a beat. NBA YoungBoy and Chief Keef. It made the entire culture look at each other sideways thinking, nah, they ain't really just do that. And dude, the streets went crazy when the studio footage of these two in the lab just chilling like everything was great appeared online. No, that's fascinatingly insane. Every blog had a post up within an hour, and it was like Twitter was on fire. Because you already know this wasn't just a collaboration if you are familiar with the history, what these names stand for, the bodies, the beefs, and the shattered ties that exist between them. The block took offense at this declaration.
Lul Tim responded to people being mad at Chief Keef and NBA YoungBoy just announcing a new collab dropping soon. This is something to talk about.
Since context is crucial when it comes to the streets, let's dissect who we're dealing with here. The creator of Oblock and the man who single-handedly contributed to the development of drill music is Chief Keef, whose official name is Keith Farrell Cozart. He was born on August 15th, 1995. I mean, that isn't hyperbole. Sosa was raised in Chicago's Southside's Parkway Garden homes, the identical developments that, following the loss of Odie Perry, were renamed Oblock in 2011. At the age of 5, this man began rapping on his mother's karaoke machine. By 2011, when he was a teenager under house arrest due to a firearms charge, he started posting freestyles to YouTube, which essentially helped create a whole hip-hop subgenre that later impacted the entire game on a global scale. The rough, unpolished words, the auto-tune ad-libs, and the gritty beats depict what life is like when growing up in the trenches. That's all part of Sosa's blueprint. This man established the groundwork for all subsequent drill rappers, from Atlanta trappers to UK musicians, when he was still a shorty.
I'm starting to see why people had they saying that the best thing Chief Keef could have done was distance himself from Oblock and get out of Chicago.
Chief Keef would have been better off separating with Oblock and leaving Chicago. By 2012, Sosa was not simply attractive. He was the most attractive person on the planet. Not only did his mixtape Back from the Dead go viral, but Kanye West also heard the hit song I Don't Like and remixed it with Pusha T, Jadakiss, and Big Sean. Following a bidding war that resulted in a $6 million agreement with Interscope Records, which included his own Glory Boys entertainment label, it peaked at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. With collaborations from 50 Cent and Wiz Khalifa, his debut album Finally Rich was released that same year. Songs like Love Sosa, which has since gone multi-platinum, solidified his reputation as a drill music godfather. However, this is the topic that isn't discussed enough. He was a 16-year-old boy who was carrying the entire hood on his back, while avoiding actual criticism from actual opponents who wanted him to go. After realizing the situation, his staff relocated him to a Northfield suburban estate. That was his first step out the door when he was only 16 or 17 years old, and he never truly returned. NBA YoungBoy, Baton Rouge's Kentrell Deshaun Gaulden, one of the world's most streamed rappers, is now sitting on the opposite end of this track. And typically, a collaboration between two such well-known performers would be a huge success for all parties. But see, YoungBoy's long-running, bitter and intense feud with Lil Durk and Oblock affiliates is what turns the whole thing into a powder keg. Diss songs are on our minds. On every album, subliminals are discussed. We are discussing affiliations with individuals who have been directly linked to actual acts of violence committed by Oblock members. YoungBoy has repeatedly made fun of King Von, may he rest in peace, on vinyl. Von was a member of the Oblock aristocracy. After Keef dipped, he became the center of that block's identity. Therefore, NBA Youngboy is more than just a competing rapper in Oblock's opinion. Capital O, capital P, he is the opposition.
Well, what parts of the body?
I get shot in my right hip bone, and I get shot on my ass. It go in and out though.
Timothy Leaks, the man who shot King Von, is Lil Tim, and in that tape, he nonchalantly describes the night that altered everything. We'll discuss that in detail soon. But be aware of what this creates. Together with the man who attempted to exact revenge for what Tim had done to their brother, the Oblock man was composing music. The streets went nuts because of this. Additionally, the Room's numbers demonstrated that this was more than simply drama. In fact, the track was rising. 304,000 first-day Spotify streams, 1.2 million TikTok views, and 1.3 million YouTube views in 4 days. As a part of his forthcoming album R3 Set, which will be released on March 20th, 2026, Mike Will Made It Cooked It. Fire was the production. Chief Keef enters with a long verse on resistance, bread, and survival, while NBA Youngboy handles the catchy chorus with his trademark raw auto-tune fire. Traditional Keef. The Block, however, would not have it, not even by a small amount. Affiliates of Oblock and OTF referred to it as a snake maneuver right away. Sosa was openly accused of betraying his own people in order to get a paycheck and some studio time. One affiliate said that Keef had defied his own, and that Oblock would continue to thrive and endure without him. Some even went so far as to claim that Keef was barred from ever setting foot on the street again, which is absurd given that the man hasn't visited Chicago in years. However, the sentiment was sincere. They felt that Sosa was spitting on Von's grave with this collaboration. He seemed to be co-signing everything that Youngboy and his group stood for. Since November 2020, Oblock has been the target of taunts, insults, and all the other negative energy. Perception is crucial in the hood. What your objectives were is irrelevant. How it is received by the streets is what counts. And Rooms was a slap in the face to the streets. And at the heart of this whole scenario is the idea of loyalty.
Loyalty though, loyalty for me is strong though. It's like loyalty to me is for everybody that a nigga fucking with. So
the idea of who you ride for and who rides for you, who is reliable and who is unreliable. Because this was not even remotely about a song. Over 10 years had passed, during which time there had been accumulated animosity, broken ties, property theft, unpaid bonds, and a block that seemed to have been abandoned by the man who drew it. You have to go all the way back to the beginning to comprehend why Oblock felt the way they did when Rooms hit. Back when Keef and the Block's relationship first began to deteriorate into something sour and irreversible. The shooting, the repercussions, and the never-drying blood. Rooms wasn't the first word in the smoke between Chief Keef and Oblock, nor did it begin with Youngboy. No, if you truly want to track this down to its origin, the beef dates back to the first time Sosa began receiving his luggage, and the friend who was meant to accompany him from the beginning began to feel a certain way about it. That friend, Lil Durk, who was born Dirk Derek Banks in 1992, appeared on the south side near Oblock on the 300 block of Englewood, also called Lamron. Both of them were BD, Black Disciples affiliates who linked up through mutual homies when they were coming up as shorties. They were trying to escape in the same manner, avoiding the same gunshots and in the same trenches. Dirk has even been cited as claiming, Keith put Chicago on the map during the early drill wave. Sosa and Dirk appeared to be set to take over the city together for a brief while. The entire game is about to be taken over by two young bulls from the south side. However, the entire dynamic changed in 2013. On the streets, the word was straightforward. Dirk was charged with a firearms charge and required roughly $10,000 in bread for bond. It is said that Keef did not post it. Furthermore, that was not the first instance of that kind of event occurring. Oblock's own Trey 5 reportedly required about $25,000 to bond. Additionally, Keef failed to deliver on that as well. That kind of behavior was unacceptable to the guys who were still on the block, still working in the field, capturing cases, and losing friends. Very bad. When your dogs need you the most, you don't blow up off the hood and then abandon them. In any case, that's how they perceived it. Then things became even more grim. There was the whole incident where Keef was supposedly licked by Boss Top, a well-known member of Oblock, after he ran up in his crib. Furthermore, there were rumors that Von had taken 2 pipes from Keef, seized his firearms without hesitation. Sosa was then emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually boiled with the block. He had had enough of Oblock politics and his attempts to keep up relationships with those who consistently betrayed him. Each step of the departure took Sosa farther away from the only world he had ever known. When he was 16, it was the suburban mansion first. For his own survival, his crew practically took him off the block. Then, in 2014, his cousin Blood Money was murdered. Additionally, Keef has stated in public that losing Blood was the turning point that made him understand that you have to mature. He began to consider a permanent relocation, imagining what life may be like outside of Chicago's sphere of influence. The last straw came in 2015. Over a burst tire on a motorcycle, 20 police officers brandishing AK-47s approached him. Over a tire are 20 policemen brandishing assault weapons. At that point, he claimed to have packed up the entire band and moved permanently to Los Angeles, citing the city's serene atmosphere as a major influence on both his music and mental well-being. "It was the best move I've ever made," he said. And it's difficult to dispute that when you consider where everyone else ended up. Sosa completely rebuilt her life in Los Angeles. After Interscope fired him in 2014, he dropped 9 children on his own terms. He began to move differently and became interested in art collecting, which he had picked up during his time in recovery. In 2022, he co-founded the 43B label alongside RBC and BMG, dropped 2024 projects like Almighty So Too, which demonstrated true maturity, and stayed away from domestic politics entirely. It had been years since the man last visited Chicago, won't even return due to the real safety dangers and the legal heat. And Sosa's 10-year absence didn't feel like progress to the guys who were still posted on the block, still living that life, still catching cases, and still burying homies. It was like being abandoned. As if he had succeeded, shut the door, and forgotten that everyone was still inside. By the time Rooms dropped and blew the lid off, that hatred had been simmering for more than a decade, like steam in a pressure cooker. But on November 6, 2020, outside the Monaco Hookah Lounge in Atlanta, Georgia, the real gasoline, the thing that transformed subliminals and internet rants into a real blood debt with human bodies attached, went down. And the events of that night would change the course of all those involved in this story for all time. Oblock's golden kid, King Von, who signed to Lil Durk's OTF, the man who completely changed the block's image after Sosa left, got into a fight with Quando Rondo's group in the parking lot. Von wasn't your average neighborhood rapper. He was the block's pride, the voice, and the storyteller. Their hardships were depicted in a genuine and unvarnished manner in his album, Welcome to Oblock. The block could still produce greatness. Once Sosa dipped, and he was the ticket out. A full-fledged fight broke out when Von approached Rondo's whip and punched him through the window, according to surveillance footage. Quando's right-hand guy, Timothy Leaks, also known as Lil Tim, a 22-year-old Savannah native, pulled his strap at that point and fired, striking Von many times in the stomach and chest. Hell erupted. Off-duty police officers who happened to be nearby also began shooting. A total of 6 persons were struck. 3 people did not survive. Von at age 26, Mark Blakely at age 34, and another person. It was an absolute mess. There were sirens blaring through the Atlanta night, gun smoke in the air and bodies on the ground. Tim was shot in the hip and the buttocks, and he was charged with felony murder the next day while still in the hospital. The state of Georgia was attempting to throw him away for life while he was 22 years old and recuperating from gunshot wounds in a hospital.
Yeah, this is the second time I done got shot.
Are you more calm about it this time since you've gone through it before?
Yeah, because like the first time I got shot, I didn't even have a panic attack.
After posting a $100,000 bond in March 2021, Tim waited for the system to make a decision about his future for more than 2 years. Fulton County prosecutors then took a step that no one in Oblock believed was feasible in August 2023. Before a grand jury could even indict him, they dropped all of the charges against him. Georgia's Stand Your Ground law was highlighted. Von was definitely the aggressor and the one who threw the initial punch, according to the CCTV film. And the state finally concluded that Tim was acting to keep his men safe. After considering the evidence, the court system declared it to be self-defense. Noah Pines, Tim's lawyer, made it clear. Before Mr. Leaks was ever charged, the case against him was dropped. That was the end of the case. That was the worst thing that could have happened to Oblock. The man who buried their sibling was free to leave. He also didn't remain silent. Following the dismissal of those charges, Tim began posting aggressive videos, releasing diss tracks, and interacting with agitators such as Charleston White, who publicly referred to Von as a monster and commended Tim for his actions. Month after month, the wound was slathered with salt. Then, 3 days after Rooms was posted online, Tim took the one action that was sure to make Oblock lose it. The backlash that caused the internet to collapse. DJ Academics posted a video on Instagram on February 16, 2026, and before the video had even been 30 seconds long, everyone on the internet was taking sides. A brief video of Lil Tim, Von's shooter, the man the feds couldn't touch, looking directly into the camera and speaking to Oblock and OTF in a way you don't recover from, was included in the article. He wasn't trying to be cunning. He was not trying to be subtle. He was simply instructing everyone on the block to sit down and stop talking.
Man, bro, did a song with Lil Tim. Man, y'all, shut y'all bitch. They ain't gonna do shit ass niggas up, man.
Give that a moment to marinate. On camera, Von's killer, the same King Von who was Oblock's pride, their heart, and the man who bore the block's legacy on his shoulders with tales, songs, and unwavering loyalty, calls them out by name. It's pointless to express their sorrow. To them, it's pointless to tell them they're angry, letting them know that all of the tense conversations and online gangbanging aren't for nothing. Those are combative words in American society, on the streets, and in every neighborhood. Timothy Leaks was well aware of his actions.
They ain't gonna do shit ass niggas up, man.
They won't do nothing, he essentially stated. He drops the bar that hits harder than any diss track ever recorded, just when you believe he can't go any farther. Get some money, in 3 words. Furthermore, it wasn't a haphazard flex. That was a well-planned shot that went straight for the most agonizing weakness Oblock and OTF were now facing. Because the indictments were the subtext that Tim was actually referring to, the one that anyone who tuned into the culture instantly recognized. By this time, Lil Durk, the head of OTF, the so-called voice of the streets, the man who practically became the block's lifeblood after Chief Keef bolted, was in federal detention on charges of murder-for-hire conspiracy. When the feds apprehended him in the vicinity of Miami in October 2024, they claimed that he planned a hit on Quando Rondo as payback for Von's passing. However, in August 2022, the gunman allegedly killed Saviella Robinson, Rondo's cousin, at a gas station in Los Angeles instead of Rondo. Durk wasn't the only one. Federal charges were also brought against 5 suspected OTF affiliates, including conspiracy to conduct murder-for-hire and firearm violations. Prosecutors portrayed OTF as a criminal organization and presented claims that shooters' travel expenses were paid for with camp-affiliated credit cards. A slap on the wrist was not what Durk had in mind. His gaze was fixed on life. Tim was effectively implying that your leader is imprisoned when he made reference to those avoiding indictments. The federal government is investigating your circle. Piece by piece, your operation is being demolished, and you guys are crazy over a song on the internet. It hurt because of that. Supporters of Oblock responded instantly and furiously. YouTube channels showed users yelling, speaking out, and threatening repercussions. Diss songs were hinted at. It was an antagonistic energy. The culture was split in 2 on X. The irony was highlighted in a widely shared post. Once Oblock separates itself from Chief Keef, they become enraged when he collaborates with one of the biggest rappers in the industry. That's where the discomfort lies. You cannot banish someone and then control their partners. A sizable portion of the hip-hop scene supported Sosa. Timelines were inundated with comments stating that it's business, not personal. That he is aware of survival. He is free and alive because of this. The previous incidents were brought up, including the purported home invasion, the stolen firearms, and the strain that forced him to permanently leave Chicago. The argument over hypocrisy was loud. After violating a guy and disowning him, how can you say that he owes you devotion years later? The argument revolved around the contradiction. Despite the internet commotion, there were no documented physical escalations, according to outlets like Hot New Hip Hop that chronicled the outrage. Emotional and personal, it was digital warfare that was limited to screens. And the contradiction at the core of hip-hop's street allegiance was what this entire incident truly revealed. Oblock lost Chief Keef more than 10 years ago. In LA, he established a new life. Independent publications, his own name, a household, separation from the violence that engulfed so many of his contemporaries. He made it out, which is what everyone claims they want to do. He has been dragged back into politics that he has avoided for years because he worked with the wrong person. Meanwhile, the same loyalty codes that are being blasted online are also the ones that are reportedly responsible for funerals, jail terms, and federal indictments. Loyalty is praised in the culture until it results in a prison.
My other partner was there. Like, I got loyalty for him. I got loyalty for my other partner. Like, that's just how I am.
It then refers to it as tragic. There is no denying Tim's involvement in any of this. He holds a permanent position in this story, regardless of whether people view him as a criminal who eluded justice, a man who was legally exonerated under laws pertaining to self-defense, or a provocateur who was just trying to get attention. Furthermore, the rifts this story revealed between self-preservation and loyalty, as well as between street codes and long-term survival, are not going to be filled anytime soon. Not when new music is coming out. Not when there are still cases ongoing. Not when every remark, every insult, and every video is magnified on social media. Drill culture doesn't let the past fade in silence. It persists. It reappears. It awaits the next interview, the next beat, or the next viral event. It's not just what Oblock responds with that is the question. Whether any response makes a difference is the true question. Because at this point, the feds continue to develop cases, the internet continues to score, and the cycle continues. I appreciate you watching. Click on one of the boxes on your screen to view other videos that are similar to this one if you liked it.